afa.net/events, click AFA at the Arc.
Welcome to today's issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
Well, welcome to today's issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I am joined in studio by Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Hey, we have to go ahead and introduce the rest, and then I've got something to say. Everyone needs to be accounted for before I say what I'm going to say.
Okay, because you're sitting in Tim's chair today. Fred Jackson's sitting in his own chair today. Good morning.
I have my own chair back.
You have your own chair.
Yes. Go Edmonton.
Go Edmonton Oilers. Well, they're down. That's a little hockey talk, folks. You have to excuse us. When Tim's not here, Fred and I tend to talk a little bit more hockey because Tim gets bored at hockey talk, but he's starting to get a little interested in it. I keep telling him, you stand on the bank of that river too long, you're going to fall in.
That's right.
But Edmonton's down 1-0 to the Florida Panthers, but they played a great game the other night, and the next game's tonight. Is that right?
No, yes, the next game tonight, still in Florida, and then they make the 2,500-mile trip to Edmonton.
By sled dog, right? To play 2 games in Edmonton.
Think about Miami, Edmonton.
Yes. That's a long flight, even if it's a chartered flight. I guess you do get to move around a little bit more, but that's long. I
think the Florida team is very glad the NHL playoffs are not in January.
Yes, that's right. Here in June.
Talk about shock. I'd like Wesley. You can chime in here.
Yeah. You want to say something about hockey?
Yeah. There's how many quarters in hockey? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I've already done that once. I won't do it again.
That's like when your dad tries to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Star Wars or Star Trek.
Sure.
I just go,
just stop
Tim.
there.
Yeah. No.
I can't listen to this. Yeah, it hurts.
All right. So what were you going to say?
Well, we need to go ahead and up front before we get started, especially early in the week. We need to go ahead and apologize and say that we don't have a fourth and a fourth and a fourth of a brain.
Yes.
We're missing a fourth. Yeah. So we are starting and we'll finish with 3/4 of a brain today. So
lucky you, listener.
Yes. Usually my dad reminds us at least once a week that you do, between all of us, have a complete brain here. But that's not the case today.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the best we can, but
that's right.
We need to give a fair warning.
Okay, now would you mind if I mention what we mentioned in devotions?
No,
this morning?
Go for it.
So now you did not ask me to do this.
That's right.
But an exciting thing happened this weekend. By the way, you coach baseball.
That's right.
And tell us a little bit about how your team did, how your son did, but also how you approach this differently.
That's wonderful. So I have the opportunity to coach my son and his team for travel ball baseball. And over the weekend, we went 5-0 playing up an age category. So we got an 8-year-old. The team I coach is 8-year-olds. We played in a 9-year-old kid pitch tournament, won the whole thing, went 5-0. The whole team performed well. There were so many small plays that happened as a coach that I remember that may have been forgotten in the stat book.
Yeah.
But there were so many plays by everybody on the field, everything lined up, and everybody backed up plays, and it all lined up to where we won it. And at the end of the championship game, my son Bennett was able to pitch a complete game, 5 innings, had 9 strikeouts, gave up 2 earned runs, and got the win. And then ultimately, my son Bennett was selected as the MVP of the tournament based on his performance there at the end. So great team work. One thing I'll add to this is that travel ball over the last 20 or 30 years has gotten a lot of bad reputation as it relates to sacrificing church and family, even sacrificing friendships and relationships at the expense of individualism.
Right.
Selfish, being very selfish. And I've seen that over the years. And so getting into it, that's one of the reasons I wanted to coach and volunteer to coach, because I was like, there's a better way to do this and still have success in your own lane.
And still have fun.
In your own lane. So we, without getting into the whole process, because it's very long and we've been doing it for several years, just to keep it simple, we put God first, others second, which would include families
Right.
second, and ourselves third. And we've done that in every phase of it, both off the field and on the field. And just everything has really come together, and God's blessing it. Sure, like life, you have your ups and your downs and
Yeah.
your setbacks and your failures. But overall, the health and the development and the spiritual development, the character development, all those things are coming together, and I just really felt that over the weekend, the reward for that, and obviously going 5-0 and getting a championship ring
Right.
kind of seals the deal. But it's doable. One day I'll write a little book on it because you can do things the right way. And one of the phrases I use often with 8-year-olds
Right.
is, "We can have fun, but we're not going to be silly."
Yeah.
You can have fun, but let's not be silly.
That's kind of our motto on this show.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We can have fun, but don't be silly. Anyways, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk about it. We had a great weekend. It was hot. I told the boys it's going to be hot, but both teams are playing in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. Our season's over, so we're going to take a 2-month break, and then we'll start back in the fall. So,
All right.
yep,
Well,
yep.
congratulations
Thank
to you
Thank you.
and to your son Bennett and to your team.
Amen.
So
Thank you
well
so
done.
much.
We're proud of you. All right, Fred, what have you done lately?
Have you flown any airplanes lately?
Not lately. It's been a couple of months. Mowed the lawn on the weekend.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Small victories. I
right.
understand.
Did you mow and edge in the same day, or are you going to come back and edge later?
No, I edge also.
Okay, get it all done.
Get it all done.
Yeah,
Yes.
might as well.
And the way the grass is growing in our area, it's like every 6 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's required.
Yeah.
All
Anyway.
right, let's go.
Big news out of Delaware at this hour. It is breaking news. The defense in the Hunter Biden gun case has decided not to call Hunter Biden to the stand. So they have rested their case, and now this will go to a jury probably in the next day or day and a half, and we'll see how long it takes to make the decision. I think most people are familiar with the case now. In October 2018, Hunter Biden purchased a gun and had to fill out a form. And on that background check. And he stated at that time, he checked a box that said that he was not a user of drugs. And that's what this case really is all about. A multitude of witnesses called, including some family members. He had an affair with his deceased brother's widow at some point. She was one of Haley. She was called as a witness along with several others, including, there was the guy who repaired the laptop, Hunter Biden laptop.
Oh, wow.
So it was an interesting case as these testimony came up. But I would say the bulk of the testimony favors the evidence that he was using drugs at the time that he made that check on that box. It's a serious charge. He could go to prison for this. This trial has had some other interesting aspects. First Lady Jill Biden has been in the courtroom pretty much, if not every day of this trial. And that caused her to fly back and forth across the Atlantic several times because she was in Norway,
Normandy.
Normandy for D-Day. And when that first ceremony was over, she flew back to Delaware to be in the courtroom that day, and then flew back to Europe to be part of some more of the D-Day events. So
I'm guessing private jet.
You're probably guessing a Boeing 767,
Okay.
which burns a whole pile of fuel.
Oh,
So,
boy.
Well, I'm sure it was a electric. Wasn't it an electric
Propeller.
Boeing?
Yeah, propeller plane.
they're now using elastics. They just wind it up.
That's it.
So you're making a point about her
Climate change.
faux concern
Yes.
about climate change. And now I she is the first lady. I understand that, but she's not alone in terms of being part of the quote unquote elite,
No.
political elite, and the Hollywood elite, and all these folks that say they're concerned about climate change,
Yes.
but their actions belie that. So that hypocrisy is worthy to be called out.
Yes.
So she was she was in. Now it's her stepson.
Yes.
Okay, I at least can understand the fact that she wants to be supportive, but I also wonder if she's there to impress upon the jury just who they're messing with.
Well, this took place in Delaware.
Yeah.
The Biden family is very, very well known in Delaware. There have been some who have speculated her presence in the courtroom had a goal.
Yeah.
Perhaps to intimidate some of the jury members during
Not
all
in
of
an
this.
illegal way, but just
No.
in the way we all understand
Yes.
when someone of importance is
Yes.
in the room.
So it
Yes.
seems to me like, from an evidence standpoint, it's just a matter of time before he's convicted. The question for me would be, what are the possible consequences? Is there 2, 3 potential options? Is it?
Oh, there's always options, but I mean, it can go to a prison sentence. I kind of doubt that.
Sure.
But the conviction would be, and don't forget, there is another trial coming, and this one has to do with tax evasion.
Right.
This is in California. Some would argue perhaps that is the more serious one. So we have to, this is an election year. This is all part of the chemistry that is going into this election year. So we'll have to wait and see, but we could have a decision from this jury by the end of the week.
All right, so Wesley, let me ask you this, because to me it seems like this is an open and shut case.
Sure.
Okay, he's innocent until proven guilty.
That's
I
right.
understand that, but it's
With the information we got right now.
with the information we got now, he checked the box. He lied on a federal form, the background check,
Sure.
and so thus he has his gun illegally. Okay, so. But let's say, because you said you think a guilty verdict is probably likely, and I would think it would be likely, but let's say it's a hung jury.
Okay.
Let's say in Delaware you have 2 or 3 of these jurors who go, I don't think, maybe he was so high he didn't even know he was checking the box or what.
That'd be interesting.
What do you think the political fallout is vis-a-vis President Trump if you have Joe Biden's son get away with a crime because of a hung jury, or maybe he's convicted and given a slap on the wrist for this compared to the lawfare that is going on against Trump?
And the question
what do you
is the
think
political.
what do you think how does that play politically?
Well, especially at this point, I mean, you're seeing a lot of people, even in the middle, obviously on the right, but even in the middle, going, what's taking place against Trump and the courts is unfair, not right. It doesn't matter who it is. Okay,
Right.
He's being attacked. Okay, if it's the case here where we have an obvious and there even amongst the left, there's some debate about whether what they're doing with Trump in New York's legal or even right.
Right.
Even on the left, they're saying, what if this was you? Would you want to know? Okay, so you're having that going on. Well, then if you've got this situation where it's a little bit more, or it's a lot more obvious that he broke the law, like he checked the box, if that proves to be true and it is a hung jury, you're gonna again, I think it would just help Trump's numbers go up even more.
Right.
That's my personal opinion on how that goes. But regardless, it will definitely, even if it doesn't help Trump, it's going to make a lot of people angry because it shows it in a lot of ways. It shows that because you are connected with someone in the elite status, that the laws don't apply to you,
Right.
the rules don't apply to you, and that's why I'm asking. There has to be the debate about what the consequence is. That's always debatable in almost every case. We have an opinions based on emotions and feelings, but the hard reality is something. There has to be, assuming that he's convicted, there has to be something that's tangible that we can walk away with going, okay, well, at least he got so-and-so.
Right.
It's from a consequence standpoint. So,
Well, speaking of Trump's trial, there is another event related to his hush money trial, of which he was convicted back a few weeks ago. Today, he's involved with a virtual pre-sentencing interview with probation officers. So he himself will not be in the courtroom, but this is where they decide the probation conditions. Could be an ankle Can you imagine an ankle bracelet?
Yeah.
Something of that nature? We'll have to wait and see where this goes, because there's another development in that case that popped up late Friday and through the weekend. The judge in the case, Juan Marchand, let it be known that on the Facebook page of the New York court system, there was an exchange that took place. A friend of one of the jurors is claiming that that friend told them 2 days before the verdict came down that Trump was going to be convicted. So that has the potential, according to legal experts, that this case could be thrown out.
Now that this person, this is what is being said.
Yes.
That one of the jurors claimed before deliberations were even finished.
Yes.
Technically.
Yes.
That Trump was going to be convicted, which
Yes.
throws open the question: is this jury following the law?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually deliberating?
Well, remember, this jury came back and had questions.
Yes.
So why would they come back and have questions if this juror is telling the truth to the friend? Oh, yeah, we're going to convict him.
Now, we don't actually know
No.
if all this is legit.
No, we don't. But it is just another element.
The judge
in this
sent out a
trial.
letter.
Yes, he did, informing both sides in the case that this is happening. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure if it's before or after, but former President Trump is speaking to a Southern Baptist group today. The Southern Baptist Convention is meeting in session in Indianapolis tomorrow and Wednesday. They're having their pastors' meeting today. But there is another group, the Danbury Institute. They are Southern Baptists. They are very conservative Southern Baptists. And they're holding a meeting off-site from where the convention is being held. And they are going to hear from former President Trump today. One of the issues, one of their big issues of this group is abortion. They want abortion eliminated completely. So they are a very, very conservative group. And there would be Southern Baptists who do not agree with them on all the issues. They really believe in political activism, that we should be out there being salt and light and all of that. The Southern Baptist Convention, as I say, the formal proceedings begin tomorrow. And high on the agenda there is the issue of women pastors. You may remember last year there was a vote to break fellowship with Saddleback, that's Rick Warren's church in California, because Rick Warren's church hired, I think it was at least 2 women, and gave them the title of pastor.
Right.
So Southern Baptists, back in 2000, I think it was, they had amended their Baptist faith and message. And the statement was that a woman forbids a woman to hold authority over a man. And but now on the agenda this year, the messengers will vote on whether to give final approval to amending their constitution to ban churches by deeming them not in, quote, friendly cooperation with women pastors in lead or associate roles. Big issue.
Yep.
There's a lot of discussion about the word pastor.
Right.
Because you have passages like 1 Timothy chapter 3, which gives the qualifications of pastors, elders, and also deacons.
Right.
Must be the husband of one wife. So a lot of those who would be opposed to women pastors often quote that portion of Scripture. Right. On the other hand, there are some in the Southern Baptist Convention that say, well, we agree with the senior pastor not being a woman, but perhaps we should open the door to have a woman be in charge of the daycare infants ministry, and we could call her a pastor.
Like a children's pastor.
Yes.
That's the language they would use.
Some would say, no, don't use the word
Children's
pastor.
minister.
Use the word director.
There you go.
So that is going to be a big issue at this year's convention. Steve Jordahl is there covering it for us.
Good.
And so we will have not only from today's gathering with former President Trump, but also the blow-by-blow of this.
Yes.
Because it is a convention that there are degrees
Yeah.
on this issue of women pastors. So we'll wait and see.
So President Trump will be speaking to the entire convention or
no.
just the Danbury Institute?
Just the Danbury Institute.
Wesley, I'll tell you, the popularity of former President Trump just seems to continue to grow. Some of it seems to be related to what a lot of people are perceiving as political persecution, lawfare.
Yep.
But he continues. I'm continually amazed at the crowds he draws.
Yep.
This isn't just politics as usual for people who like the former president.
No, and many people like myself, so you've got words that people say, and then you got their actions.
Right.
All right. And ideally, they match, right?
Right.
However, if you have to pick between the two, I care more about what you do
Right.
than you say.
Right.
All right. And a lot of people have not forgotten. While we do forget a lot, it seems, in politics, and we move on and we forget. A lot of people like myself, that we remember all the very, very conservative decisions that Trump did while he was in office.
Right.
And I know we've said this a lot, but we also remember our finances.
Right. Yes.
There's a lot of things. And finances is a spiritual topic. Okay.
Yeah.
However, I understand from a priority standpoint, there's others that are higher, like life and others. And the border, you got things like that. So we remember those, and so he did so much for the conservative cause during his 4 years off, and I say he did. His administration did. He was surrounded by such good people, especially during those 3.5 years, 3 years right before the pandemic happened. In quotes, pandemic. But the idea is
don't get Wesley started.
Yeah, don't give us started. But the idea is that he accomplished so much, and we remember that, and we have hopes. We have hopes that if he gets elected again, he will be, from an action standpoint, that he will be as conservative, if not more, than he was there. And so I think that's why he's drawing a lot of crowds from that reason. So,
well, the crowds are extraordinary whenever he speaks. It is going to be interesting to see, Fred, what this judge decides in terms. Is this guy going to put the former president in jail?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be insane.
Remember a year and a half or so ago, he had the mug shot down there in Fulton County, Georgia. So if you add a mug shot and then an ankle bracelet shot.
Or orange jumpsuit or whatever they have
start
there.
Throwing him in there.
His numbers might spike even more.
It only serves to help him.
Yes. All right.
Boy.
When we come back, we're going to talk about fatherhood. We'll have a couple of guests. A young man, 14 years old, who's written a book to his dad.
Good.
And we got Father's Day coming up, so we'll be talking to a couple of folks. Short break. We will be right back.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
So he came to a city of Samaria called Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and so Jesus, wearied as he was with his journey, sat down beside the well. It was about the 6th hour. Palestine in the time of Jesus was divided into 3 sections. In the south was Judea, the region where Christ was born. In the north was Galilee, the region where Christ grew up. In between Judea and Galilee was Samaria. The Scriptures tell us of a journey Jesus took through Samaria. It also reminds us that Jews did not normally travel through Samaria. In fact, the Jews considered the Samaritans such a low-class people that no self-respecting Jew had any dealing whatsoever with a Samaritan. We know that Jesus and his disciples stopped at Jacob's well in Samaria to rest and eat. The disciples left Jesus at the well and went into Sychar to get some food. It was about noon, and Jesus was resting at the well, waiting for the return of his disciples. As he waited, a Samaritan woman came to the well to draw water. To the casual reader, there's nothing unusual about this. But to one who is familiar with the customs of the day, the oddity is immediately recognized. No woman ever drew water in the middle of the day. Only work absolutely necessary was performed while the heat was so intense. Women drew their water at the close of the day, when temperatures were much cooler. It was a social event for the village women, and as they drew water, they could catch up on the latest gossip. Evidently, the respectable women had so ignored, excluded, and embarrassed this woman that she came to draw water at a time when she would be sure no one else would be present. Then Jesus did a very unusual thing. He spoke to the Samaritan woman. He asked her for a drink, and the request opened up a conversation which was to change her life. She replied to his request by reminding him of the racial prejudice between the Jews and Samaritans. But then Christ lifted her vision to a higher plane by offering her living water. When she again injected the race issue into the conversation by mentioning the Samaritan temple on Mount Gerizim, located to the south and visible from Jacob's well, Christ reminded her that the place where one worshiped was unimportant. The important part of worship was the how, in spirit and truth. It is of supreme importance that Christ first revealed his identity to this woman of the world, married 5 times and living with a 6th man. To the Jew, this woman was as low a human as one could be. It is significant that John included this story in his gospel. None of the other gospels contain it. Here is Christ revealing for the first time his messiahship to a sinful Samaritan woman. In effect, John is saying that God's love reaches to the very lowest and least of all people. The love of God knows absolutely no limits. You can still drink from Jacob's well today. Each time I stop there, I pause to drink from the very deep stream. For centuries and centuries, the well has been giving life. But each time I drink, I'm reminded of the living water which Christ gave to that Samaritan woman. And, like he said, this living water is available to us no matter who we are or where we worship. Indeed, God's love knows no limits.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
What no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love Him. 1 Corinthians 2:9.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I am joined in studio by Wesley Wildman and Fred Jackson. Well, this coming Sunday is Father's Day, and we have a couple of guests with us, Blythe Daniel and her 14-year-old son, William. We're going to talk to William for the most part. We might throw a question or two to Blythe, but because William has written a book about fathers. Anyway, welcome to both of you to today's issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now William is a middle schooler, competitive gymnast. He's already written one book, You're Joking Me, Jokes for Kids by a Kid. His bio says he enjoys telling jokes, making his family and friends laugh. He plays saxophone and wants to be a pilot. William, is there anything you can't do?
Well,
it sounds like you're going to try everything that comes into your head. That's That's great. All right, so William, this is your second book. You wrote this book about its fatherhood. The title of it is "I Love You, Dad." Now, for someone who's 14 years old, I would expect from a middle schooler a book about jokes. But why the subject of fathers? There's lots of books out there from fathers about fatherhood, experts on the family, but this is from a father's kid. This is an interesting perspective. Why did you decide to write a book about fatherhood?
Well, you see, I was actually one of the three perspectives that actually wrote this book, because me, my mom, and then my grandmother all wrote this together, actually. But it was the original book. And my mom, if she wants to jump in and explain this, she can. But it was called "I Love You, Mom." And my grandmother and my mom wrote that. And so it was to honor moms in their walk and their role in the family. And so they decided to write one to honor dads. And they, decided to include me on it. So, but yeah, it's really just to honor dads and to just assure their role in the family.
All right. Well, William, I know that just from personal experience, having grown up in church, not grown up in church, I've been a Christian since I was 20, but was a pastor for many years. I made this mistake myself, but on Mother's Day, moms are applauded and praised. On Father's Day, fathers are usually censured. They're usually criticized. They're usually, dads, you need to step it up a notch. The country's falling apart because fathers aren't being fathers. So tell me one area that you think dads do not give themselves enough credit for.
Yeah, well, as the statistics go, I believe it was 52% of dads in their households do not feel appreciated, which is over half, which is a pretty serious thing. But what a lot of dads don't see in themselves is that they're the providers, and that they're the ones, providing stability for their family, and their job. And most dads do an excellent job of that, but just aren't recognized. And so they think that maybe they're not doing a good job in that area, and they're not giving themselves enough credit.
Well, Blythe, you, as William pointed out, you wrote about the relationship between moms and their daughters. You've worked in Christian publishing for many years. You've obviously written a book. You work with Thomas Nelson, focused on the family, different groups that are in the Christian community. Do you think people are waking up to the importance of family for the health of the nation? We get a book between moms and daughters, now fathers and their families. What do you see as you work in the Christian community in terms of the importance of family?
I think you really nailed it, Ed, when you said that families are the backbone or the health of our nation. And we know that God has called men to take their role and to step into it without trepidation, and to know that they carry such a significant role in the family. And I do feel like in some of the television shows and in some of the media that fathers have been portrayed as maybe a weak person in the rise to help women stand out and help women know their place in the world. I think sometimes that has shoved fathers down to a lower notch. And so fathers, we know, carry the heartbeat of the family. God placed within the family the fathers to be the role models, the providers. And not all fathers have felt like they've done a good job. And some might not acknowledge that they've had some areas that they could work on. But God is really the ultimate example of fatherhood, isn't he? And so what I see and what really prompted this book, as William said, was to just encourage dads in their role, to help strengthen them to a place where they do feel appreciated. And the devotions in this book is really to just recognize a father for who he is, the legacy that he carries, the compassion that he can gain from God and give to his kids. We look at topics about wisdom and taking a rest, permission to rest. And so we try to just cover areas that fathers can be receptive to and just know how God sees them and how their family, though they may not tell them all the time, how their family can show appreciation to them, not just on Father's Day, but throughout the year.
Oh, amen. I love that. Well, William, last question for you, and then we want you or your mom to let our listeners know where they can get a copy of the book, I Love You, Dad. But just looking at some of the things you've already done, your book has endorsements from well-known writers like John Elridge. You've been on radio, talk shows, even television. All right. So do you see yourself maybe, I know you said you want to be a pilot. Do you maybe see yourself on radio or television sometime in the future? You speak with confidence. Do you see perhaps some sort of public role?
I would say so, yeah. I know a lot of people ask me if I want to do stand-up comedy, and, I'll consider it maybe. But I think, yeah, definitely, being a public voice to voice other people's thoughts is definitely something that I see in my future.
Okay. Well, you handle yourself very well for 14 years old. Already 2 books under your belt. Of course, you come from a writing family. Blythe, you also have you have 3 children. You have a daughter who's also written a book, I think.
That's right. She wrote a book called Let's Be Friends, and it's helping girls keep and maintain strong friendships.
All right. Well, either one of you, let our listeners know how people can get a copy of I Love You, Dad.
Thank you, Ed. I Love You, Dad, Words to Honor and Humor You can be found on ingamepress.com, our publisher, or on amazon.com or christianbook.com. And if anyone wants to reach out to us or visit our site, we can be found at ourmendedhearts.com. And we certainly appreciate your support. Thank you for what you do for families. Families are so important, and we just want to speak into their importance and their role and how God's shaped us as families to encourage each other.
All right. Well, thank you for the kind words, Blythe. And William, thank you for being on with us. You did a great job. And maybe sometime I'll see you trending on Facebook or YouTube, some stand-up comedy. We always need some good, clean comedians. So continue to think and dream big, William. And thanks to both of you for being on with us here on Today's Issues.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Blythe and William Daniel. They are mother and son. I Love You, Dad is the name of the book. Check it out. All right, Fred, what else we got news-wise?
Oh, so much going on in the news. You may not have heard what happened in Europe over the weekend. Over 20 European Union countries held elections, and conservative issues won the day in some key places. Italy already has a very conservative government leader there. Meloni is her name. She actually spoke to CPAC here in the United States back a year and a half, 2 years ago. And her strength and her party only increased. There's going to be the French President Macron. The conservatives did so well in his country. He has called for snap elections coming up in several weeks from now. And in Germany, conservatives were elected. You want to know what the big issues are?
That was my next question. What were the top 2 or 3
I'm going to
issues?
guess immigration's way up there on the list.
Immigration, absolutely huge. Europe has seen an invasion from Middle Eastern countries over the last several years, and they're finding out in Europe that's not working out too well.
Right.
So, especially in France, Paris, the Islamic population, what's going on there.
And a lot of them are young, single men without jobs.
Yes.
They're Muslims.
Yes. Interesting, young single men flowing across our southern border.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah. Here's the other issue in Europe. This is going to sound familiar too. Climate change.
I believe
Now, that's surprising to me.
Climate change. You may, back several months ago, again, there's so much going on. Farmers in the Netherlands holding protests.
Yeah.
Because they want to cut back on fossil fuels.
They're being told to.
Yes. Farmers, what are we going to do?
Right.
They drove their tractors to government buildings and all of that sort of thing. So it really is interesting. And I think if you're the Democratic Party in the United States, you better pay attention. Because if liberal Europe is turning conservative, you know something is happening in this country as well.
Right.
And that is why on the weekend, former President Trump, he had a couple of rallies. One of them was in Phoenix. The other one was in Nevada, which, by the way, he lost in the last election, but he's way out in front of the polls there. He makes no bones about it. The border is one of the big issues for him. Cut number 7.
What he signed means nothing. In fact, it makes it easier. In my opinion, it opens the border still further. We have people coming into our country. This open border situation where you're allowing millions and millions of people to flood our country, we can't handle it. No country could handle it. It's not sustainable.
It's absolutely backfiring, Biden's border decision. And it was, we've talked about this before. Canada, Joe Biden said, I would invite a surge at the border.
Right.
Which is exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And so we have seen this. Now, the plan that former President Trump was talking about there was the plan announced early last week. Oh, we're going to deal with the border. We're only going to allow 2,500 across the border a day. People are laughing at that.
Right.
In fact, the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, I just like to say his name.
And you have perfected it.
He was interviewed on one of the liberal networks on the weekend, really questioned, is this really going to work? Have a listen to his bureaucratese in his response. Cut number 6.
We're at a very early stage. Implementation, as you noted, has just begun. Our intent is to really change the risk calculus of individuals before they leave their countries of origin and incentivize them to use the lawful pathways that we have made available to them and keep them out of the hands of exploitative smugglers. It's early. The signs are positive.
So
signs are positive.
That's just a bunch of lies.
Between him and just reading the executive order altogether, I try to go into it going, there's got to be one thing in here that we can count. We can hang our hat on and go, this is going to be helpful. But at this point, it's all white noise. There's nothing good from it. It's all we've used the word window dressing.
Yeah.
But this is bad.
Listen, it seems clear to me from what you said about Europe, even growing conservative sentiment in Canada.
Yes.
Okay, and in this country, where we see former President Trump doing much better than Republicans normally do amongst the black community and the Hispanic community. And Wesley, I'll pitch this to you. Okay, it seems to me that the left has, just broadly speaking, because the European left, Canadian left, the American left, they're a little bit different, okay? Sure. But the left in general has been taken over by crazies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, radicals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that seems to be driving the conservative sentiment. It's not necessarily that people are in love with Republicans, because personally, I think Republicans do a really bad job
of selling
their own agenda,
sure.
Okay, and convincing people to vote Republican. I just think people, talking about these farmers in Europe and these folks that are not aggressive conservatives,
no.
They just don't want their communities being overrun by people who refuse to assimilate.
Yeah.
Who want to apply Sharia law, who want to marry, young girl, all this kind of stuff. This craziness on the left seems to be driving this kind of conservatism.
And I do think with time, and the question is how long, but I do think with time, it's been proven that radical far left ideas don't work.
Right.
They end up circling back around. And so I don't know where we are in the timeline here, but I think we could potentially be on the breaking point or the turning point of coming back to common sense.
Yeah.
Because here's why. You can't give the crazies, which you're talking about. We all know what you're talking about. An example would be I'm drawing a
maybe
blank.
defund the police.
But defund the police. Okay, let's use that. So anyone that would support that, we're going to put them in the camp of this is lunacy. This is crazy. So that group, once you give them any amount of a seat at the table, or you give them any credibility, or you give them any opportunity to comment or have a vote in your party,
right,
you don't get that back. Okay, you don't get that back. You can't tell them no, because then they're going to tell. Then they're going to maybe not blackmail you, but they're going to find some way to get you to say, basically, if you don't allow me to have a seat here, here's what I'm going to go after you.
Yeah.
So you can't get that back. And so to your point, or to my point, they have in all these areas, in all these countries, the far left crazies have entered into the far left.
Yes.
And you can't get that back. And so I think it's only going to grow, in my opinion. I think they're going to grow and taking over their party and obviously it's going to be for the worse.
Yes.
And
Fred, to Wesley's point, all right, there's real concern that at the Democratic National Convention here this summer, I think they're in July, I think, right? Or then August. August, okay. That there could be violence from the pro-Hamas wing of the party.
That's an example of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That's it, and they could disrupt the Democratic National Convention.
They gave
people who hate Jews and support a terrorist organization.
Yes.
I don't know if we got a clip, but I know we've got a story over the weekend. The Hamas protest organizers, they in D.C., they surrounded the White House, and in some of the monuments they defaced them. And then in some of the videos I've seen, and it may have been worse than this, but in some of the videos I've seen, the Hamas protesters were throwing items at the state park police.
Yeah,
State Park Police?
Well, there was one monument that had a single federal park policeman. I forget what you. Yeah. He's getting hit with glass bottles.
Yeah.
And there were
peacefully, but they were. I mean, they were.
It was just mostly peaceful protests, and some of these protesters started trying to climb the fence at the White House.
Yeah, but the problem here is now the back to the point here is that now how does Biden and the far left comment on this? You see what I'm saying? They've allowed them in.
There is no to your point. There is no getting that party back without splitting it.
Right.
Listen, what you guys just described sounds like an insurrection.
I know, right?
It really does. I mean, if you assault a police officer, you need to go to prison for 6 years.
A federal.
The park rangers, I think, is what they're called, right?
Well, if you
assault, they're officers.
Yes,
they're.
But the statues and the White House that's federal ground, though.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an excellent point, Wesley. There is no getting the party back from these radical leftists, Marxists, pro-Hamas terrorists, all these kinds of things. There's no way to get that back in a peaceful process. This is going to be an intramural war in the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party wants to and their establishment wants to wrest the party back from these crazies, they're going to have to go to war with them, and they're just going to split the Democratic Party down the middle.
Yeah, and what I say, bring it on.
Yes,
American people.
Yeah.
You have a look at all of this.
Yes.
Is this what you want this country to be?
Mm-hmm.
You want our universities to be pro-Hamas?
Right.
Do you want a government that can't make up its mind between supporting Israel? There was a rescue of 4 hostages by a special unit of the Israelis on the weekend. You know the response from Vice President Kamala Harris? She felt bad for the Palestinians who were killed in that rescue attempt by Israel.
To rescue hostages?
I didn't see that.
They rescued.
She felt bad for the.
She felt bad for she called them civilians that were killed.
Well, listen, I have no problem with feeling bad for the civilians that are killed in a war.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, that's
We've
true.
Stated that from the beginning.
Yeah, that's true in Ukraine. That was true in Europe. That's true. But if the Biden administration can come out and say this wouldn't have happened if Hamas had released the hostages.
That's right.
Then I think it's disingenuous to say, we're only concerned about the civilians.
Not to mention your first reaction. Your first reaction, regardless, if you were sincere, the slightest bit would have been to be excited and celebrate. a 24-hour victory here.
Yes.
Of the hostages being recovered.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's the starting point.
One of the stories,
be.
I'm not sure if it's yours or if we talked about it with Chris in our story meeting, talking about the crazy left-wing stuff that's going on in this country. The Biden administration with the automobile miles per gallon. Is that your story or is that Chris's?
Yeah, this was, I always tell the guys in the newsroom, watch out on Friday afternoons
Yes.
on election years. Be very careful.
That goes to our listening audience, too.
Oh, yeah.
Now explain why.
Yeah,
All
do
right.
that. Yeah.
Because announcements come out from the government that they know are going to be unpopular with the majority of Americans,
Yes.
but they put them out there because they're appeasing their far left audience.
Yeah.
The announcement that came out from the Biden administration late Friday afternoon that in 2031, they want all new vehicles, the mileage to be 38 miles per gallon. 38 miles per gallon. Now, American people, listen up. New cars, if you're thinking about buying a new car, buy that.
Yeah.
And listen, folks, that's only 7 years.
7 years.
7 years away. 7 years goes by just like that.
And the automobile manufacturers have to start figuring out how they're going to meet that federally mandated goal. They have to
Yes.
start figuring that out now.
Yeah, and how do you build an engine for somebody who wants an SUV
That's right.
instead of an Austin Mini Minor?
Right.
Somebody wants you have SUV that gets 38 miles to the gallon?
This is an
it's called-
attempt to push gasoline-powered engines
Out. That's right.
Okay,
Yes.
and let me just give you a little bit of inside information. I was talking to a mechanic at a dealership who told me that I was asking about a repair, and he said, well, the part that had to be replaced was plastic. And I said, plastic? And what he told me was, the more these government mandates come down to improve gas mileage, the more the automobile manufacturers, they can't significantly improve the internal combustion engine, but they can lighten the vehicle.
Right.
And they start replacing parts with plastic. And I'm afraid what they're going to start doing is lightening the car up otherwise in other areas to get that weight down to improve the gas miles per gallon, and that will increase the safety risk.
Yes.
Because you've got to cut corners somewhere.
So you're saying they're not going to be made like the good old days,
right? And this is all part
where things
of
last a while.
Yeah. Oh, my
You know
goodness. No.
No.
Plastic. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
One more thing under the far left agenda. You may remember back not too long ago, Governor Newsom of California.
A genius.
$20 an hour minimum wage.
And that's official, right? That's
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
The verdict is in on how that's working out.
Okay.
10,000 jobs lost.
In the food industry, restaurant industry.
Burger King, Pizza Hut, local
You
chains.
can't blame those guys.
There's one local chain, Mexican chain, Rubio's Coastal Grill. They have declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy, shut down 48 locations in that
Because they
state.
couldn't afford the $20 per hour.
No.
For people who make fish tacos.
Exactly.
Okay, this is what
Exactly.
we're dealing with.
Yep.
So these are the ideas that we're talking about
there you go.
that are crazy leftist ideas that in the real world do not work,
No.
but they have real world consequences.
Very much so.
If this is not a hypothetical situation, this has occurred.
Yes.
History is playing out right here.
Yes, it is. All right, folks, we are going to take a 5-minute break for news. Guess what? We'll be back after that break. Chris Woodward will be in the house. We'll be looking at more of the news here and abroad that affect you from a Christian perspective. Please join us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
At one time, there was one express way to get urgent information. Aren't you glad for modern technology? Today, AFA Action Alerts can reach you in seconds with up-to-the-minute information that allows you to take action. These days, seconds can mean the difference between keeping our families safe or losing precious Christian freedoms. Sign up for Action Alerts today at afaaction.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is hoping for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas after Israel launched a raid and recovered 4 hostages over the weekend. Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv with the latest.
He said there is a ceasefire deal on the table. It's been accepted by Israel, and he's calling on the world to pressure Hamas to sign on to the agreement. It does come after really the happiest weekend in Israel since the war began. 4 Israeli hostages rescued from Hamas captivity. There were cheers in the streets and along the beaches in Tel Aviv. New video reveals what part of the daring operation to save them looked like. Israeli special forces engaged in intense gun battles with Hamas militants as they stormed 2 apartment buildings in central Gaza. There was a major political shakeup here in Israel. Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot, 2 members of the Israeli war cabinet, resigned from their positions.
Former President Donald Trump is gaining support among American business owners, including the tech companies, at an event in Silicon Valley. Grady Trimble in Washington with more.
Venture capitalist and podcast hosts David Sachs and Chamath Palihapitiya hosted the event. The Winklevoss twins of the social network, Facebook, and crypto fame were also there, along with a whole host of others. The Trump campaign says it raised $12 million at that one event and more than $33 million over that 4-day trip. Former President Trump will meet with executives from some of the most powerful companies in the world at Business Roundtable's quarterly meeting. The organization says it invited President Biden as well, but he'll be traveling to the G7 summit in Italy, so his chief of staff, Jeff Zients, will go instead.
There's been little, if any, progress making up large learning gaps that have emerged since the onset of the pandemic, according to a new analysis of data from the testing group NWEA. A majority of elementary teachers say students are worse off since the pandemic. Fox News medical consultant Dr. Mark Siegel says students were damaged because officials overreacted with extreme measures.
During the pandemic, over 3 years, kids were isolated, and they were on their iPhones at a very young age. I mean, before the age of 5. And they were home, and they were shut down, or schools were closed. So the basic playtime, I think you learn more in playtime, by the way, than you actually learn sitting in a class sometimes. That was shut down. There wasn't physical education. That was shut down. Fear of spreading the virus. When it comes to public health, you've got to look at the consequences and the costs of what you do. And we saw this happening early on. Kids wearing masks can't read other kids' faces, can't read the teachers' faces. You have to get back to basics with your child.
A premature baby in Iowa helps to prove that abortion is the taking of innocent human life. Charlie Butts explains.
Evelyn Eilers of Iowa City, Iowa, was born 17 weeks early, 8.5 ounces, in a hospital that also performs abortions. According to the Tiniest Babies Registry, she is the tiniest surviving preemie born in this country. Maggie DeWitty of Pulse Life Advocates tells AFN, doctors got to work.
They fought hard to save her little life, and now she's gone home, and her family is blessed that she is happy and healthy and thriving. And it's just a good reminder that all life has value and all life has dignity, and it should be protected.
The current political debate is either for abortion up to birth, establishing a limit, or protecting life at the beginning.
This serves as an excellent reminder that because of these advances, babies are being born sooner and sooner. So we really need to think about how precious this life is, and they should be protected from the moment of conception.
Evelyn Eilers is proof that life is worth fighting for at any stage.
U.S. stocks are mixed and quiet trading ahead of a week with several top-tier reports on inflation due, as well as the Federal Reserve's latest meeting on interest rates. The S&P 500 dipped 0.1% today, still close to its record from last week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 7 points, and the Nasdaq Composite slipped 0.2%. More news available online at afn.net, and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back from the break. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I'm joined in studio by Wesley Wildman. And now Chris Woodward he's the news guy. He replaced Fred for this last segment. Good morning / good afternoon to you.
Yes. Reports of my demise last week were greatly exaggerated.
You were on vacation,
I
right?
was.
Yeah.
I was.
Well, nobody was reporting your demise.
I survived a beach trip. And with today's news of unfortunate shark attacks, praise God.
Were there shark attacks?
There have been some shark incidents in the Florida Panhandle that are in the news today. Yes, some people have been really injured.
Shark incidents?
Shark incidents. That's how
That's how it's
news speak.
The news speak.
Incidents involving sharks taking nibbles off of human beings are in the news.
Incidents involving sharks. Okay.
They were mostly peaceful, though.
Yes, mostly peaceful incidents. Yeah. Well, that's the right way to have a run-in with a shark.
Yes,
if it's mostly peaceful. So I didn't know that. I didn't hear about the shark incidents.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome back.
Thank you.
Nobody was reporting on your demise.
Oh, I just like to do that.
Yeah.
Now, can we confirm how serious the shark situation is? Here's why. Because so many times you get one little clip and everyone freaks out.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, because
out of millions and millions of people
my wife
at the beach.
My wife and I had this debate yesterday. I'm not on social media, so that doesn't mean I don't get social media clips sent to me occasionally, but I'm not on social media, and so sometimes she's quicker to bite take the hook than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having this debate, and she was telling me everything you were saying, and she went up one notch or two about the seriousness of it, and I'm glad and I was
the danger posed.
And I was like, I don't know. She started showing me some videos, and I was like, where was it? Yeah. Was it like 100 miles offshore?
Was it in Australia?
Yeah. So, This just in from Rusty Pugh. 2 fairly serious attacks in the Destin area. One lady had an arm amputated by the bite.
Okay.
Wow.
But the mathematical odds of you being there on that day in that exact location are
still
small.
Yeah. I'm just gonna lay it all out there. I hadn't been in the ocean swimming since I saw Jaws at the theater. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. When I was growing up, we went to the beach a fair amount, Middle East, up in New England.
Yeah.
Where Jaws happened. And in high school, when a bunch of us would go down to the beach, we would all swim way over our heads.
Oh, yeah.
And just be out there, And then I saw Jaws, and it suddenly dawned on me, there could be big things swimming under me, and I have never been over my knees since then.
Yeah, it's I wasn't in the Destin area. We went to the Orange Beach area. We did on one afternoon while we were at the beach. Another couple whose kids were playing next to ours. The mom approached me and she said, "Hey, I think I saw some fins out there. It might be dolphins. I didn't see anything, but swim at your own risk and pay attention to the kids if they're out there in the water while you're relaxing on the sand."
So really, really second guess or really think through if you're going to go to the sandbar or not.
Yes.
Because in years past, it's been a tradition for Walker, myself, and my brother-in-law at some point in our 7 days in Destin to go to the sandbar, which the sandbar, for those to kind of give a description, you swim about 100 yards to where you can't touch to get to a point that you can touch 100 yards off the shore.
So 200 yards
about
total?
100, 200 total.
Wow.
You use a raft or something.
Yeah.
But you can still see the shore. And the idea is that what you're trying to do is swim, and then you're 100 yards off the shore, and you can stand. It's a sandbar off the shore. We've been doing that. It's been a tradition for years. So if that's been a tradition of years too, this year you may want to give it a pass.
Yeah, I mean, you can stand as long as you got legs.
Right.
So that's the problem
That's it.
here.
That's a problem.
And besides, on a raft, that's just good fiber for a shark, man.
That's right.
That's just no. Listen, folks, you can just think what you want about me.
That's right.
I don't care. I haven't been swimming since I saw
Are
Jaws.
you scared?
Yeah, I don't want. Listen, sharks. Listen, you have to understand the Vitagliano luck. I'm going to use air quotes here.
Luck.
Okay, Vitagliano luck is where if anything can go wrong, it will.
Okay.
So we're talking sharks. We've got Vitagliano luck working against me. I'm not risking it.
No, I
All
wouldn't
right.
do it either.
Judge me if you want, people. That's fine.
You know, I just
But I'm
wanna make
alive.
sure- I don't want to make sure we're on the record that you're scared. No. I'm just kidding.
Now that's
that's take that off the record.
Yeah, I'm cautious.
Okay, cautious.
I'm cautious.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well,
Go, let's
this
get
is an
serious.
election year for people that might have gotten caught up in other things going on in the news cycle. Some people say, I'll be glad when it's over. But others are looking forward to casting their vote in November. And I bring this up because hardly a day goes by without seeing or hearing of somebody on the supposed short list for former President Donald Trump, the presumptive GOP presidential nominee in 2024. One of those names is freshman Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. He was on Fox and Friends this morning, and they were talking about a number of topics, but they took a few minutes out of the segment to ask Vance about him being rumored to be on the supposed short list for Trump's running mate. Clip 10.
It's ultimately Donald Trump's decision. There's a lot of talented people to pick from. And look, I'm glad it's not my decision because there are so many good people. But as I've said to other people, I have not talked to Donald Trump about it. I'm very interested in helping him out, whatever that looks like. So if that means I'm helping out the people of Ohio and the Trump agenda in the Senate, that's great. If he asks me to serve, I will certainly do it.
Are there people on the list that shouldn't be on the list? Since you shared.
Yeah, who are they?
Go ahead,
Again,
them up right now. If you weren't being considered, would you tell us the people? Because the J.D. Vance that I know before he got elected would say, these people don't align with the conservative.
Well, look, if there were people on the list that I thought were total scumbags or bad people, I would say so, right? But I think you look at the list, you look at Doug, you look at Marco Rubio, you look at Tim Scott. These are all like fundamentally good and decent people, and I think all of them would make a fine vice
president.
Vice president.
That's where to cut it off.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that is, I'm not going to say a dumb question because that's probably a little bit ugly, Wesley, but that's not a very politically astute question to ask.
No.
Someone who's on a list for potential vice president.
With other people.
Yeah. Who on that list would you like to stab in the back right here on our show?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, there's a couple other thoughts that come to mind, but from a constructive standpoint for radio here, I think he handled that excellent.
He really did.
He did.
And he would be good.
Because my thoughts were like, why are you asking me that? Let me ask you, what do you,
Yeah.
But sure, obviously he handled that.
Which person at
exceptionally well.
Fox News would you like to leapfrog to get a better paying job,
That's
Lawrence?
the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the same kind of thing that he's asking.
I will for
good for
people
him.
that didn't catch the names they threw out there. The other supposed names on the supposed short list, according to Fox and other news outlets, are people including Senator Marco Rubio, a man that Trump referred to for a couple of years as Little Marco after the 2016 election. North Dakota governor and former presidential candidate Doug Burgum is on there. I think Trump's probably got him in mind for like interior secretary or something of that sort. Nobody's told me that. I'm just guessing. And then some of the other names on there are people like Senator Tim Scott. I do think this is, without a doubt, the most important running mate selection in the history of presidential elections, because whether it's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or Trump and whoever it is, this person could very well be the president of the United States in the not too distant future.
Right.
Given their age, given their health situations, we all know Trump has legal problems that he says he's fighting, and he claims he's done nothing wrong. So I think we always talk about how it's the most important election in the history. Oftentimes it is, but this may be the most important VP pick of all VP picks in my lifetime.
All right, so let me ask both of you guys, and Wesley, you can start, and then Chris. Oh, we'll go Chris and then Wesley. All right, so let's assume for a moment that Joe Biden goes the distance.
Okay.
All right, that he doesn't step down, that he's not replaced at the convention or any of those kind of things we've been talking about, which are, I think, increasingly, I won't say likely, but increasingly possible.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe Biden gets to the convention, and because of what you just said, Chris, because of his age and the fact that most people don't think he's probably going to be able to last the whole 4 years without having to step aside. Let's say, do you think that Kamala Harris will stay as his VP pick because that VP selection is going to be so important, or do you think they encourage her to step aside and replace her?
I think they will encourage her to step aside and replace her, knowing that the media will be on their side and romanticize whoever it is they throw out there, whether it's Michelle Obama or somebody else that we have spent a year and a half talking about possibly replacing him at the convention. The media will trump up Newsom and talk about how wonderful he is and all these things he's done for California and the fact that he's a caring person for the environment and women's rights and all these things. So even if in the 11th hour they replace Joe and Kamala, they will have the weapons in place to really push home that candidate, even if it's somebody they don't come up with until late August.
Okay. I'll take the other side. I think that they are stuck with President Biden and Kamala Harris. I think they're stuck. The Democrat Party is stuck with those two, and they're not gonna replace them. It is what it is, and it's gonna hurt them seriously. I think all their eggs are in that basket. Now, don't ask me how insane that is because that don't make much sense. But now, backing up just a little bit. So that's my answer to that question.
Yeah.
But I want to finish the list of the short list because you listed some, but there's a couple more. We got Tim Scott, Ben Carson, Elise Stefanik, Brian Donalds, and Tom Cotton are the remainders on the list as of June 6th.
Okay.
So
all right.
The reason I mentioned those because I'm a Tim Scott guy. I'm a Tim Scott guy, but I think, practically speaking, Ben Carson helps Trump most. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
And I got reasons for that, but that's the reason I want to give the rest of the list because I think Ben Carson will help him.
I would like to see somebody really take on Vice President Harris in that one and only debate.
Yeah.
We always have one debate between the person that's a heartbeat away. I've never understood that. We need to have a couple, in my opinion, that nobody asked for.
That's because you work in the newsroom.
Right. And I get paid to monitor these things to tell you about it, America. But I don't see Ben Carson being able to take on Kamala Harris in a debate. He will be too nice. Now, we should be polite. I get all that. But I just don't see him given the fiery but that a Marco Rubio or a Byron Donalds or whoever it may be could throw out there.
Yeah.
Elise Stefanik would hold her own there in a debate.
I agree with that. I think that he would not do well in a debate. I agree with that. Yep.
All right. Enough for the speculation of the panel.
From the political world to the sports world, Fox has been running hard with this all day. They just had Clay Travis on to give his 2 cents about it as well. For people that are not familiar with the story, former NCAA star turned WNBA rookie, Caitlin Clark, has, for whatever reason, been left off the Olympic roster, which has left a lot of people kind of scratching their heads. She is, without a doubt, the most famous female basketball player in recent months, really. She got a lot of attention at Iowa because she was a phenomenal star. She made virtually every shot she took. She helped her team win. All these kinds of things. Then
now,
she goes.
Let me just say, and I'm sitting in really for Tim.
Okay.
So I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
Like Tim does.
Okay.
Now we do need to give credit where credit is due. Brittany Griner was pretty famous for a while.
Yes.
As a WNBA player.
Some might say infamous.
When she was in prison in Russia.
Yes.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Caitlin Clark is kind of the new household topic, household name. Since she arrived at the WNBA, coincidentally, a lot of their games have been on television now, which is something you can't you couldn't have found a few years ago when Brittany was the face of the WNBA. Nonetheless, I've got former NBC sports personality turned Fox News contributor Michelle Tafoya. She's one of the people out there blasting the decision to leave Caitlin Clark off USA women's basketball in the Olympics. Clip 11.
People are discovering women's basketball for the first time, for many, many people, because of Caitlin Clark. She would have been a boon for this Olympic team. Look, this is a sport. It is a game. Brian, it's also a business. You know that better than anybody. It is a business. This would have meant so much for the ratings of the women's Olympic basketball stuff, all of it.
Well, listen, Wesley, I'm just going to say it doesn't matter to me. I don't watch the WNBA, but I have seen some clips, like a montage of Caitlin Clark in one of these last games she played, and she's phenomenal. She is so good. Now, I understand she's a rookie and she hasn't, quote unquote, proven herself, but she would be good. She would draw a lot of eyeballs to the women's team in the Olympics. That seems like it would make, like Michelle Tafoya said, that would make good business sense at least.
Yeah, I want to raise my hand here and remind our audience throughout all of this, and that's that Caitlin Clark, the reason for her popularity and for the attention that she is getting is unanimously because of her performance that she did in college,
right?
And which is now beginning to slowly transition into the NBA. Her performance and what she's capable of doing from a basketball skill standpoint is just phenomenal. It's in many cases, it's like we haven't seen anybody shoot like this, dribble like this, pass like this. We've seen individuals pass well. We've seen individuals shoot well. We've seen individuals play defense well. But to be able to combine all of those and at the range that she's shooting from and making the shots, we haven't seen anything like this in one individual player in a long time, almost in both sides of the court, men and women's, but we're seeing it now with her and women. So her performance is the reason for her excelling. So why in the world they wouldn't include her on the roster,
right,
for Team USA? It's just beyond me.
I will say,
I say beyond me. Outside of, there's been a lot of discussion about her skin color and of her taking over the league and all these things, but all of those things that are being discussed goes back to my point originally, and that's that her performance is causing that. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, listen, let me just say this, and I want to be careful here. I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm about to say about the ladies, okay? I've never seen the movie Mean Girls. You know, it's about high school, some girls. But gals can be really mean to one another. Now, guys can too, but it's in a kind of a different way. I am not surprised that there's some jealousy and some envy. I can see where if you always see things in terms of race, you would see this and say, this white girl comes out of college and she's getting all the attention. People are watching games because she's white, and they don't want to watch the black girls who have been playing in the WNBA. Listen, I get if that's the way you see the world, that's the way it's going to look to you. But I'm just going to say, in defense of America, that Americans love champions, and they love quality athletes. Who was the gymnastics? Biles? Who the
Simone?
Yes,
Simone Biles.
Yeah, Biles. She was a darling of America in the Olympics because she was a winner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
performance.
Yep. And so it wasn't like a bunch of white Americans tuning in and saying, "Well, Cy, I guess we need to watch the black gymnast for a while because we need to be fair." No, she was smiling. She was super at what she was doing, and Americans love champions. And Caitlin Clark has the ability to be like the female Larry Bird.
Yeah, it's going to backfire.
And her shot selection from way beyond the 3-point line, her ball handling, her passing, all of that kind of thing. Just for business sense, it'd be huge for her to be on the Olympic team.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I scored 50 once in a game, but it was on Nintendo, so it doesn't count.
You're right, Chris. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's what
All
other
right,
people tell me too.
Let's move on. Any
Yes.
idea that they might change their mind on this? Or?
I haven't heard any discussion on that as to whether that could happen. I guess it's possible.
Might
I don't
make
know.
matters
likely.
worse at this
Right.
point. So.
In
All
other
right.
news, if you guys haven't made weekend plans yet, you might want to consider magnet fishing, which is apparently something do in places to, among other things, try to clean up rivers where people have dumped metal and stuff into it, safes, guns, coins, stuff like that. And I bring it up because there's a couple in Queens, New York that found $100,000 in cash while fishing in Queens, New York. I've got a little bit of a story here from CNN.
Cash?
Yeah, $100,000 in cash. They found it inside a safe, which he caught using a giant magnet. Clip 12 here.
Babe, more money.
The couple estimates the safe contained $100,000. They notified the New York City Police Department, but were ultimately allowed to keep their treasure.
Stacks, baby!
The department said in a statement that found property that's valued at $10 or more usually has to be left with the police. But in this case, the value and authenticity of the alleged currency could not be determined due to the severely disintegrated condition of the property.
Hopefully we can hand deliver it to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Washington, D.C. Mutilated money, not 100% can be returned, but they can definitely forensically piece it all, 99 or 90% of it all back together, and hopefully we can get down to Washington, D.C. I don't want to mail 100,000 in an envelope, so.
James and Barbie already have an idea of how they might use the money.
Well, one of our dreams that we've always had is getting a place of our own, maybe somewhere down south where it's warm, somewhere with grass and trees, and where I can get chickens and raise them and goats and stuff like that.
We just don't want the city life anymore.
Yeah.
It's rough around here.
Okay, wait a second.
A lot of thoughts there.
Where
Ed.
do we start?
That's right.
First of all, New Yorkers, you're welcome to come on down here to the South, but don't bring your politics
That's
with
right.
you.
Don't do that.
If you're going to vote for the same problems that caused your neighborhood to be rough around here, like you said.
So that's where we start on this program.
Yes, that's right.
Now, another thought, is it terrible of me? Wait, we're on radio, aren't we?
You're on radio.
We are?
Started
is
now.
Is it terrible of me to go, why did you call the cops? Don't call. You find $100,000. You keep $100,000.
Well, yeah, but you could get
I
in
know,
trouble.
You're right. I know.
Because if you suddenly deposit $100,000 into your bank account, then you
Okay.
get arrested as a drug
Okay.
dealer.
Is it worse if I was trying to think of ways to not deposit all at once?
Yeah, this is the kind of thing you do not say on the radio.
Okay, all right.
Listen,
But they did the right thing, and they were rewarded for it. They got to keep it.
Well, hopefully to get to keep it. It's kind of bizarre. So this was in a safe. It just stacks of cash,
Yeah. Babe,
and water got into
more
it.
money.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was our producer Adam was answering your question by replaying the clip.
Yeah, I posted the link to the CNN story that we just aired a portion from, so you can watch the video. She likes to do this because it cleans up the rivers. He apparently likes it because they might find some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. You go, especially under a bridge, and you start fishing. You mentioned guns. If you're fishing with a magnet and you find a gun, I'm pretty sure it was used in a crime.
Then you do call the cops.
Then
yes.
I got it.
I will say, as a proud Mississippian, if you are from one of the boroughs and you're looking to move south, as she is, we do have a Brooklyn, Mississippi in Forest County, and there's a Manhattan, Kansas, if you're interested in moving there.
Yeah.
Okay.
How in the world did he get a safe up with a fishing line?
It is a giant magnet
Yeah.
with a really strong line.
Yep.
I guess so. Wow.
I've seen those before. Y'all have seen the people at the beach with the metal
Oh, yeah.
detectors?
Yeah. I've
Some
seen
people
that.
do that for a hobby. In this case, they're trying to.
I had someone,
Some people
a
scrap
neighbor
metal,
who started doing that.
Yeah.
Ask if he could come to my yard and use it. I said, it's fine.
knock yourself
Whatever you
out.
find, though, it's 50-50.
Yes.
All right, folks, that's all we have for this edition, I should say, of today's issues. More great programming directly ahead on the American Family Radio Network. And Lord willing, we will see you right back here tomorrow. You have a great day.
We live in a day when America's families are under attack like never before.
Buddy Smith, Senior Vice President of the